I am Matt Westmoreland, Chair of the Zoning Committee, and I call this meeting to order. I am joined by my colleagues Lilian Bakhtiari, Amir Faroki, Howard Shook, Mary Norwood, and Jason Dozier. I will make a motion to adopt the agenda, seconded by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Please open that vote. We have also been joined by Councilmember Marcy Collier Overstreet.
Yeah, look. I did as you asked.
The vote is open.
Councilmember Norwood, how would you like your vote reflected?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't want to slow up the committee. I know it's going to be long.
It'll be 7 yeas and 0 nays.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. I will entertain a motion from Councilmember Norwood to approve the minutes.
Second.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second by Councilmember Shook.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 7 yeas, 0 nays.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved. Next up is public comment. We have no one signed up for public comment. Next up are ordinances for first reading. There is one ordinance first reading that will be sounded at the October 7th full council meeting. No action is needed. That takes us to G, ordinances for second reading. Without objection, we can take items 2 through 5 as a block. The recommendation is favorable.
Good morning, council members. Item number 2, 24-013-23, Z2439, an ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from English Avenue Special Public Interest District, Subarea 1 to English Avenue Special Public Interest District, Subarea 3 for 423 Sunset Avenue Northwest. Staff and ZRB recommendation is approval. MP recommendations approval conditional. Item number 3, 24-013-25, Z2441, an ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from English Avenue Special Public Interest District, Subarea 2, Westside Affordable Workforce Housing Overlay to English Avenue Special Public Interest District, Subarea 3, Westside Affordable Workforce Housing Overlay for property located at 392 and 396 James P. Brawley Drive Northwest. Staff and ZRB recommendation is approval. MP recommendation approval conditional. Item number 4, 24-014-20, Z2451, an ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from single-family residential to single-family residential for property located at 831 Hargett Street Southeast. Staff and ZRB recommendation is approval. MP recommendation approval conditional. And item number 5, 24-014-21, Z2452, an ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from single-family residential to single-family residential for property located at 2905 Waters Road Southwest. Staff and ZRB recommendation is approval. MP recommendation approval conditional.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion on items 2 through 5? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve. Second by Councilmember Shook.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are favorable. Without objection, we can take items 6, 7, 9, and 10 as a block.
Item number 6, 24-011-24, Z2417, an ordinance by Councilmember Byron D. Amos as amended by zoning committee to rezone certain properties in the West Highlands community and Rockdale community from single-family residential Westside Park Affordable Workforce Housing Overlay to planned development mixed-use Westside Park Affordable Workforce Housing Overlay, and from residential general sector 3 Westside Park Affordable Workforce Housing Overlay to mixed residential commercial conditional Westside Park Affordable Workforce Housing Overlay. Staff, NPU, and ZRB recommendation approval conditional. Item number 7, 24-012-51, U2411, an amended ordinance by zoning committee granting a special use permit to sever excess development density pursuant to section 1628023-2D from 875 West Peachtree Street Northwest, the sending parcel, to 155 7th Street Northwest, the receiving parcel. Staff and ZRB recommendation approval conditional. MP recommendation is approval. Item number 9, 24-013-49, Z2445, an amended ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from single-family residential to planned Plan Development Housing for property located at 3181 Stone Road Southwest. Staff and ZRB recommendation approval conditional. MP recommendation is approval. And item number 10, 2401423 U2422, an amended ordinance by zoning committee for a special use permit for a daycare and school pursuant to section 1606A0051B for property located at 1196 Arkwright Place Southeast and 1189 and 1193 Merlin Avenue Southeast. Staff recommendation, ZRB recommendation, and MP recommendation is approval conditional.
Sound number 9. We did? Okay. I missed it. Any questions or comments on items 6, 7, 9, or 10? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve as amended. Second by Councilmember Norwood.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are favorable as amended. Item 8.
Item number 8, 2401347, Z2454, an ordinance by Councilmember Antonio Lewis as amended by zoning committee to rezone 1089 Alene Avenue, 1078 Bigland Street Southwest, and 1050 Murphy Avenue, and 0 Sylvan Road Southwest, parcel ID 140106 LL047, and 1100 Sylvan Road Southwest from light industrial conditional beltline overlay to industrial mixed-use conditional beltline overlay, and the request is to hold this item.
Motion to hold. Second by Councilmember Dozier.
The vote is open. Would all members please vote? Vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. Item 11.
Item number 11, 2401320, Z2435, the substitute ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from single-family residential to planned development housing for property located at 740 Glenhurst Drive Southwest. Staff and ZRB recommendations approval conditional. MP recommendation is denial.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Shook. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
6 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. That item is favorable as substituted. Item 12.
Item number 12, 2401424, U2423, an ordinance by zoning committee for a special use permit for a personal care home pursuant to section 16110051E for property located at 122 Cleveland Avenue Southwest. Staff and ZRB recommendation is denial. MP recommendation is approval.
Motion to adverse.
Second.
Second by Shook.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. That item, the recommendation is to adverse. Items 13 and 14 can be taken as a block without objection.
Item number 13, 2401314, Z2427, an ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from single-family residential to single-family residential for property located at 2910 Tejas Trail Southwest. And item number 14, 2401354, Z2453, an ordinance by zoning committee to rezone from residential general sector 3 to multifamily residential for property located at 1388 Northwest Drive Northwest. Staff and ZRB recommendation is to file. MP recommendation is approval.
Motion to file. Second by Shook.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
7 yeas, 0 nays. The recommendation is to file. That concludes our legislative items, but Councilmember Amos is here to speak to item number 15 under held 2201759.
Everyone, Byron Amos, Atlanta City Council District 3. In reference to 22-0-1759, I'm asking for the committee to remove it from held to push it forward. This is an ongoing conversation. We held this paper over a year ago. And the people of Home Park has constantly been crying out for help for short-term rentals, such as other people around the city. I do understand there's a lot of conversation taking place, so if this committee would move this forward to our next council meeting with no recommendation, I think that'll give us an opportunity to continue to have conversation with the administration on just what we can do to service the people of Home Park and the city of Atlanta. So.
I'm not sure procedurally whether I'm going to ask for law to give their opinion before or after a motion. I guess we would need. Indeed, I know.
I'll say it in the mic.
Touche. I will entertain a motion if there is one from the floor. And to do something. Got a motion from Shook to move forward with no recommendation. Second from Norwood. Ms. Robinson, would you please share your opinion of this piece of legislation?
Yes, good afternoon. Good morning. Amber A. Robinson, City of Atlanta Department of Law. This particular ordinance, 22-017-59, purports to amend the zoning code, specifically the Home Park District regulations, to provide that short-term rental licenses, which are issued under the police powers of the city, shall only be issued within the district for primary residences meeting the homestead definition of state law. There are two reasons why the Department of Law is advised that this particular ordinance would be unconstitutional if enacted. The first being that this ordinance purports to amend the licensing requirements, which are wholly separate from zoning. They are police power licenses issued throughout the city under the city's police powers, no different than like an alcohol license or a license to operate a tattoo shop or something like that. Under our police powers, when issuing a license under the 14th Amendment, the licensing requirements must be clear and ascertainable and applicable citywide. What that means is if I apply for an alcohol license or any sort of police power license anywhere in the city, I should know that my license requirements are the same as the license requirements of anybody else in the entire city. To state that, well, if you are located here, your qualifications for a police power license are different than if you were located somewhere else in the city is an on its face violation of the 14th Amendment. A good way of thinking about that might also be the state issues driver's licenses. Everybody qualifies for a driver's license the same. Those are also licenses issued under the police power in the state that if you live in Catoosa County, your requirements for a Georgia driver's license are different than if you live in Coffee County, would be unconstitutional. That's what we have here. That is unconstitutional. In addition, the amendment 22-017-59 purports to state that you must be a holder of a primary residence as defined in state law under the homestead exemption statute. We believe that it is likely that if challenged, a court would find that to be an unconstitutional violation of the Commerce Clause of the United States Constitution, as it prohibits anybody other than primary residents to hold a particular license. That has recently, in the last couple of years, been determined to be unconstitutional in our neighboring circuit, the Fifth Circuit, as applied to a very similar restriction out of the city of New Orleans. And so due to the fact that we believe this is likely to be held unconstitutional, we would advise we believe that it be likely to be held unconstitutional, and therefore we'd recommend it not move forward. However, I really would like to reiterate, even if there was a desire to take a chance on the residency piece, because I will admit that has not been declared in the 11th Circuit, your 14th Amendment problem with the licensing piece remains. And on its face, it is well established in Georgia and in the 11th Circuit that licensing laws cannot be so prescribed by area when they need to be clear and ascertainable and applicable throughout the entire jurisdiction.
Thank you. Mr. Shook.
All right. I'm glad we're having this conversation because I've had reason lately to ponder these same matters, as I believe we all will in the weeks ahead. So would I be right then that unless or until other ordinances are passed, all of which have to comply with state law, what Mr. Amos or others could do is introduce legislation that would prohibit STRs within a certain geographical boundary or boundaries, and or establish minimum distance prohibition requirements.
That would be absolutely correct, Councilmember Schick. There would be no reason why the zoning code could not be amended to prohibit any particular use in a zoning district or to add distancing requirements within the zoning district. So this legislation, though, could be amended to do that. That would, of course, require it going back through the zoning procedures law process, but that would be perfectly lawful to do that, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. It's Mr. Amos's call as far as I'm concerned, but I do take her very seriously, and I'm going to govern myself accordingly as I start wargaming what I want a District 7 piece to look like.
Any thoughts?
I'm not sure how this could happen. The piece of legislation I'm looking at is completely different than what our legal counsel read. This 22-0-1759 I'm looking at calls for one thing, added a new section, which were short-term rental license shall not be issued in SPI 8 home park district. That may be a previous paper in which all those other concerns were stripped out of because we did talk about the unconstitutionality of it. I think the paper that went and got staff approval, NPU approval, and ZRB approval is the one that only speaks of not issuing license in the SPI.
So, I'm sorry if I may respond. If that is the paper that is current before this committee, then there would be no legal issues with that. However, I would defer to the director of zoning concerning this because the paper that I pulled to discuss this last night on the agenda was the paper I read. So if in fact there has been, as will happen when papers go to the NPUs and to the ZRB, they're substituted. I cannot state, but the paper I read is a paper that is on the agenda currently.
Ms. Holmes, you want to respond?
Yes, ma'am. So this paper, there was a paper that was sent to the Home Park Neighborhood Association, or NPUE. That paper was voted on, and it would have been uploaded into ELMS. I'm not sure without review of ELMS if the second paper is in ELMS or not.
No, what is in ELMS is regards the primary residence issue.
Is that AMS 3130?
That's correct. And this paper has not been amended.
Yeah.
If I may, I have a question for Mr. Evans. You can, is it your advice that this paper has never been amended or substituted since it was introduced?
That's correct.
So,
What you discussed is the current paper.
so if I may, of course, this paper could be substituted to state at what Councilmember Amos says that it should be stating currently. However, I believe that would then require it to go back to the NPU for approval in ZRB or not.
I'm sorry, this paper was over a year ago, so I'm not sure where we are in the process, unfortunately, without reflecting the notes of ZRB when the application was heard, before the amended paper was heard before them. So I would not be able to answer that without having my computer in front of me and be able to find that information out.
Yes, and I believe Mr. Evans has stated this has never been amended or substituted, so therefore it could never have gone to the NPUs or ZRB as stated by Councilmember Amos. Is that not correct?
No, ma'am. So the paper had been amended after it had been introduced, and the amended paper would have been sent to the NPUE. They would have voted on an amended paper. The amended paper would have been before ZRB at their public hearing, and the amended paper would then be added to ELMS for zoning committee to act on it.
I'm confused. When was it amended?
I'm saying if the paper was amended, so subject to the second paper being introduced and the second paper being sent to the NPU, NPU would have received an amended paper. The zoning review board would have voted on an amended paper, and then an amended paper would have been entered into ELMS.
I believe Mr. Evans has stated that it's not been amended.
I was going to say,
It would only be entered into ELMS if the zoning review board had heard it at a public hearing, and then the amended paper would have been entered into ELMS for review for zoning committee.
Ms. Overstreet.
My interpretation of all of that is that it has not been amended. And we should never be voting on any paper where we're not real clear about what we're voting on. So it's that simple, so.
I agree with that. And it seems like we're not 100% clear where things are. Well, actually, it seems like we might be clear that this paper either needs to be substituted, which would send it back to the NPU, or a paper that articulates, I don't know. I'm not, yeah. Okay. We got a motion to move forward with no rec and second that have been withdrawn. I do want to respect my colleague, Mr. Amos. It sounds like maybe Mr. Evans and Ms. Holmes and Ms. Robinson and you and myself could get together and we will figure out the next step. With that, are there any other general remarks? Excellent. All right. We were so close. Mrs. Bakhtiari.
I looked at the week and realized it is this week. So this Sunday, the 29th, I will be doing our Coffee with the Council Member at Sweet Sheets in Cabbagetown. We'll be in the park just outside of the coffee shop from 12:30 to 2:30. You can come talk to me about anything. And we will be posting a rainy day backup plan just in case on social media later this week. But hope to see you there. Thank you.
Anything else? Councilmember Shook, when is the District 7 Chat and Chew?
Oh, it's gonna be a dual event.
Dual
He's gonna
event.
show up.
Here we go.
It's gonna be great.
All right. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.